Back when I was in 3rd grade, I had a best friend who, for the sake of the story, we'll call her Gwen. Gwen came from a very large family due to the fact of her parents separating. She went with her mother, with her 3 other siblings, who then married a man who had 4 other children. They lived in a giant house, and that was their first mistake. Gwen's older sister was having a slumber party, and due to the fact that her room was set up like a Pinterest, with 2 sets of bunk beds and a single bed, there was enough room for Gwen to invite me along. I was ecstatic and happy, and agreed. It was my first time over their house. I was known for being that kid that loved ghost stories and such, so when Gwen warned me about her house being haunted, I took it as a joke. She wanted to scare me, so I thought nothing of it. I had arrived a little bit later than the rest of the girls. There were 5 of us in total sleeping in the bunk bed. Gwen, her older sister, 2 of her sister's friends, and myself. Kayla was Gwen's older sister, and her friends were Ellie and Allie. Luckily, they didn't mind too much about us being with them, so we were able to catch up on some older kid gossip. Before retreating to the bedroom, we were watching a movie which, when you looked at the TV, you were also facing the staircase which led upstairs. Halfway through the movie, Gwen nudged my arm and said, "Look." I looked up to see a black figure just walk up the stairs and vanish out of sight. When it reached the top, I nearly peed my pants. I wanted to go home, but it was too late for me to call anyone. I pretended I had fallen asleep so that way I could keep my eyes shut through the remainder of the movie. Then we went to the bedroom. The format of the basement was simple. You walked down the stairs and there was a large living room. Then you walked to the side and down a step and there was a long hallway, with Kayla's own room being the furthest away. Then the bathroom, and then the bunk room. Gwen brought up the topic of the dark figure, and Kayla began to tell the story. She didn't know what had happened, but she knew that there was a presence there, and she also believed her parents did too. She explained her mother was more jumpy and more on edge since the move-in. Ellie was laughing, as she was the type of girl who was always tougher and always braver than anyone else. "You know, when you knock, something is supposed to knock back," she explained, and I simply pleaded with her not to. 3 knocks is the key. I've forgotten what each knock symbolizes, but it alerts the other ghosties. She was making a joke about it. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep in my tears. Ellie hopped off the bed and went to the wall that had the bathroom on the other side. The bathroom was unoccupied, so Ellie said there was no way anyone could play a trick on us. Then she knocked, and something immediately knocked back 3 times. We all had to resist the urge to scream, for we didn't want to get in trouble. We all scrambled to the bunk beds furthest from the wall and huddled onto each other. I don't remember much after that. I think we all just waited in silence. Gwen and I were growing sleepy, so Ellie and Allie and Kayla all retreated to the other bunk bed, which only partially touched that knocking wall. That bunk and ours created a right angle in the corner, which they had filled with blankets and stuffed animals. Gwen and I fell asleep on the bottom bunk while the other girls stayed up and talked. I don't know how long I was asleep for, but I was woken up by Allie softly calling my name in an urgent tone. When I looked up, all she said was, "Get up here now." I don't know what made me, but I turned my head to where the right angle space was, and all I could see was hair, as though someone was taller than the bunk and had lots and lots of hair hanging down. I could barely make out a torso and arms, but truthfully, once I saw the hair, I booked it to the higher bunk. Gwen was a sound sleeper and wouldn't wake up, so the 4 of us just watched this figure stand over her. We were awake until morning, and once the sunlight shone in, it disappeared. They moved a couple of months later. Gwen said her mother just decided she didn't like this house, or the neighborhood just isn't her favorite, but we all knew that wasn't the case. I never went back there, and I'm glad I didn't, because that fear that took over my body when I saw that figure standing behind my head is something I wish to never feel again. Have any of you taken a late-night train alone? I had too many times. I'd find myself stuck riding a late-night train alone. I hated it being underground with no one else on the train. Sometimes I'd get lucky and have one other semi-normal person to share the scary ride with me. However, most of the time I got a few bums or weirdos talking to themselves, or the ones that give me the death stare the whole ride. I'll never forget the one night that made me never want to step foot in another subway again. It was really late and I had just gotten out of work, and I was making my way down a creepy street when I heard a man laughing. Thinking it was probably some weirdo homeless man again, I didn't pay any attention and kept walking. I stood there waiting for my train when I heard the same laughing, only this time it echoed throughout the empty station. I took out my phone to check the time when I heard someone tapping their foot from the top stairs leading into the station. I started to freak out, thinking that some weird druggie or homeless dude was on some kind of trip when I noticed the train approaching. I could hear the heavy footsteps of someone coming down the stairs. I started feeling really uneasy and started to get impatient until the train finally arrived. I ran inside hoping that the doors would close when I saw a tall man slowly approaching the doors. This man was really tall. He was wearing a very fancy black suit. He was bald and didn't even have hair on his eyebrows or had eyelashes for that matter. His eyes were freakishly blue. He looked so strange. His lips looked like they had lipstick on them, and his body was so disproportional he reminded me of one of those puppets that would move funny. He stood right in front of the doors and stood there staring at me. My mind was racing. I began thinking that this creepy dude was going to probably hurt me, yet he didn't move. He stood there just staring at me. The doors didn't close, and I knew for a fact it had been a while already. The man just stood there staring at me without blinking. I was so terrified at the lack of movement and weirdness, the man didn't even look like he was breathing. I don't know how, but right as I was thinking of saying something, he spoke. What he said didn't make any sense at all. It was like jumbo of words mixed together in a strange tone. The last thing I remember him somewhat saying was,
"Tonight to you. Tonight."
And just like that, he turned around and walked off. I stood there thinking, what the fuck just happened? When the doors finally closed and the train started moving, I sat there still trying to comprehend what had just happened. When the train moved on and out and onto a bridge, I was looking out the window when I caught a glimpse of the same man standing below looking up. I got up and turned to see if I could see him again, but he was gone. Needless to say, I don't go and ride on the train anymore at night. First off, I'd like to say I am telling this story from a girl's perspective, and I was 18 at the time this happened. I was in my second year of community college when this whole thing started, and I was enjoying a little bit of new freedom from my parents who were strict at homeschooling. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I was looking to meet someone new, but wasn't too thrilled with the immature and rowdy guys I mostly came in contact with at school. I wanted someone a bit more mature. I had heard about online dating and decided to give it a try. I was young and naive, and while I understood the dangers of talking to people online, I didn't think anything bad would happen to me. So I made an account on Plenty of Fish. It was a free dating site, and there were millions of users on it, so I figured I might find someone that way. One of the first people to message me was a man who I'll call Dave. He was 10 years older than me, but he looked cute in his photo. He seemed nice and sincere from the messages he sent me, so I decided I would talk to him. He said he was an EMT and he had his own house. He seemed like he had his life together, which I liked. We seemed to get along well, and we talked via the site's instant messenger for a few days, then we moved to texting. I was becoming curious if he had any more pictures of himself, as he only had one photo online. So I asked him, and he sent me a picture without his face of what he said was his abs, but wouldn't send any more of his face. This should have been a red flag, but being 18 and having come from a somewhat sheltered homeschool family, I didn't think anything of it. A few weeks passed of casual chatting, and he started to become more and more insistent on meeting me. I told my mom about it, and she said I couldn't go unless her and Dad came along to meet him for the first time, to make sure he was okay, because you never know about people these days. I was super annoyed and embarrassed that I would have to drag my parents along on a date, but I obligated and Dave agreed to meet us at a local Italian restaurant for dinner. When the day came we were going to meet him, we arrived at the restaurant and got a table. I'd gotten a text from Dave saying he was on his way, so we just ordered drinks and waited for him to arrive before ordering our meals. Time ticked on, and on, and on. I told my parents that if I didn't like him, I would order a salad. That would be the cue to get out of there as soon as possible. Finally, after over an hour of waiting, he showed up. My heart sank. I barely recognized him from the photo he had online. He was at least 100 pounds heavier, and his face looked a bit more weathered. It was obvious he had been deceptive about his looks, as he definitely did not have a six-pack, nor was he good-looking at all. He greeted us, sweaty and flustered because he was so late, but gave my dad a strong handshake, and was very friendly to my parents, which they liked. Needless to say, however, I ordered a salad when the waiter came back. My parents basically paid no mind to my cue to speed up the dinner, as they seemed to enjoy talking to him. The night was going okay, but I really wanted to get out of there as soon as we could. After 3 really awkward hours, we said goodnight to him and went home. Immediately, I texted him afterwards and told him that while I liked him as a person, I wasn't interested in a relationship with him. He seemed sad and really wanted a chance, so he suggested that we remain friends and hang out sometimes. Reluctantly, I agreed, and my parents let me go out with him because he seemed okay. So we started meeting him in places. We would go to the mall or the movies, things like that. Then he started meeting me at my school to hang out with me during my downtime. However, I started to feel kind of weird about it. Wasn't he supposed to be an EMT? When did he have time to work? It made me uneasy that he was coming to see me nearly every day. I mentioned this situation to my mom, and it raised a red flag to her. She advised I stop hanging out with him. I informed him I didn't want to be friends with him anymore, as I felt I was leading him on and I wasn't interested. He seemed okay over the phone, and I thought it would end there. God, was I dead wrong. He started texting me and calling me non-stop. He would leave about 20 to 30 text messages a day begging me to hang out with him again. He would call and call, seeming to get more angrier each voicemail he left me. When I ignored those, he would send me emails or message me on Plenty of Fish. I told him to leave me alone, just in case ignoring him wasn't enough of a hint. He wouldn't. He was beginning to scare me. He told me that he had friends in the police department and in the Interpol, and that he knew where I lived. He threatened to come to my school or to come to the house, and he claimed that he knew where I was at all times. I was terrified of this. I would sometimes see a strange black car driving slowly by, and I would hide and keep the blinds shut when I was home alone. To this day, I'm not sure if it was him or if it was a coincidence. I began to drive my mom's car to school as he knew what my car looked like. My mom had kept her car in the garage all the time, so there was no way he knew the car. I also parked in a different area at the school, so it was less likely he would find me and follow me home. I eventually got a new number, so the text messages and calls stopped, but that didn't stop him from emailing me and instant messaging me from my new accounts he made. Even though I had blocked his old ones, I basically had to watch my back and live in fear for 6 months, until it finally stopped. About a year or so after all this transpired, I googled him and I thought, if he is this creepy, I wonder if he has a record. Well, it turns out, he had been arrested and charged with child pornography recently, and had been thrown in jail after violating his probation by trying to get a job working with children at an amusement park. I read some comments on some of the articles about how he stalked and threatened other women too. Turns out, he was never an EMT at all. By the way, I'm so glad he's behind bars where he belongs. So perverted, scum of the earth, child porn addict stalker, let's not meet ever again. Hey guys, well, I guess I won't be going on Plenty of Fish anytime soon. And I just wanted to say, guys, if you have any scary stories that you would like to share with me, or that would, you would like to have them be told on this channel, my email address will be down below in the description for you guys to email me all of your scary stories. And if you like this video, please click that little magical like button for me. And if you really like me as a person and as this channel, please subscribe to my channel for more newer content. As always, guys, thank you all for watching if you've made it this far, and remember, the best ideas always come out of nightmares.